Welcome to my second masterclass on depersonalization and derealization. I'm Lily Seiss. I'm going to introduce myself a little bit later, but yes, this is my second masterclass that I've made. I made my first one about 6 months ago, and it's really wonderful. But since then, I've actually had a few more insights, and I've worked with a lot more people experiencing depersonalization and derealization, and I wanted to add in a few, wanted to revise it and add in some new stuff. And so this is a masterclass to help you feel better no matter how long you've been experiencing depersonalization and derealization. And also something that I added is, what if you started experiencing this after kind of a bad high, maybe from smoking weed or an edible or even just CBD? So let's get into it. Here is the contents. We're going to talk about what is depersonalization and derealization, not too much because you probably already understand it from your own experience. What does it feel like? How long does it last? What about if it's from weed, THC or CBD? And most importantly, how to feel better. So, hi, I'm Lily. I'm a former school psychologist, and I think more importantly, somebody who used to struggle with anxiety, and depersonalization and derealization was my least favorite symptom. When I was suffering with it on and off for 7 years, I actually had no idea that it had a name. I just called it a panic attack because when I was experiencing it for the first time and I called my psychiatrist, he's like, "Oh, you're having a panic attack." And I took that, but I also thought, this nobody can experience a panic attack like this. Like, I really thought I was losing my mind. So I resisted that feeling. I obsessed about how to help panic attacks and how to prevent them and how to stop them. And as you know, it was this self-perpetuating cycle. And actually, I started healing and I stopped experiencing depersonalization and derealization even before I knew that there was a name for it. Because the same thing can be applied to healing from anxiety or healing from panic. But I want you to know I know what it feels like. And that's why when I talk to people, it can be really comforting because I know this super strange, weird feeling. So when we're kind of chatting and having sessions, it's like, yes, yes. I'm so sad that you relate. But I had never met anybody that experienced it. And so it's not a prerequisite for being an amazing coach or therapist or psychiatrist, but it's just a special bonus that I have some personal and professional experience on this subject. So I know I said former school psychologist, and right now I'm a practicing registered practitioner with the Three Principles Global Community, specializing in anxiety. So in other words, I'm an anxiety coach, but I love having training and like a home, and the Three Principles community was what gave me freedom, not only from depersonalization and derealization, panic attacks, health anxiety, driving anxiety, oh my God, so much more. It just changed my whole life. So a couple years ago, I started coaching, and then now that's what I do full time. All right. And so Sid Banks, he is the founder of the Three Principles, and I wanted to start off with this quote. Do not try to understand the words of the wise from an intellectual perspective. Listen for a positive feeling. Positive feelings will bring you the answer you seek. Listen for truth and look for positive feelings. That's what I want you to do. Don't try to logic your way out of this, to intellectualize it. Probably a lot of what I'm talking about you are definitely going to just be able to get, but there might be some stuff that you just look for just listen for a feeling. I'm taking a deep breath as I'm about to begin, and I hope you can do that. And if you are experiencing depersonalization or derealization, maybe you can just let this be background noise. You can watch this as many times as you like. Don't listen as if like this is going to be the cure. I'm going to be tested on it. Just as I said, just kind of listen for a positive feeling. This is one of my amazing teachers and mentors, Dr. Bill Pettit. He is a retired psychiatrist, and I had the privilege of doing almost a year-long certification with him. When I was transitioning from being a school psychologist, I considered going back and getting my PhD because I did have a little bit of insecurity of not having like a title, and I think coaches can sometimes get a bad rap. And so I started working with Dr. Pettit and consulting with him about clients. And oh my gosh, he was just a wealth of information. So much of what I learned is from him. And since then, I've also had so many other wonderful teachers in the Three Principles community and being part of the Three Principles global community. So this is some stuff that Dr. Pettit taught me. How the human system is benevolent and beneficent. Benevolent is well-meaning and kindly. And beneficent is generous or doing good, resulting in good. And so a stress response, fight, flight, or freeze, or fawn, it's this physiological reaction that occurs in response to a perceived harmful event, attack, or threat to survival. It's such a gift, actually, a beautiful gift that humans have this stress response, but sometimes when it comes to derealization and depersonalization, which is a defense mechanism, it is a stress response. It's this defense mechanism of the brain. It's a beautiful natural response to stress and trauma that puts a mental barrier between you and the danger. And I put the danger in quotes because sometimes there's not a visible danger. It's just this, too much stressful thinking. And our brain is a computer. It can't tell the difference between real danger and this danger of too much thinking, of this super scary thoughts. And so our brain just comes in and it is a natural response. But when we don't understand what's happening, we can get really scared and kind of innocently make it last for longer than it needs to. So this stress response, depersonalization and derealization, so helpful when we're in real danger. This is the same for a panic attack too, which sometimes, can feel horrible, but it's this big rush of adrenaline, and a stress response, if God forbid that cool mom with the tattoos was in that car accident, she would have this stress response, and if her arm was broken, she wouldn't even feel pain. Maybe she would experience a little depersonalization, so she wasn't really aware of everything that was happening. There would be this mental barrier, so she could go and save her baby and save herself, and she wouldn't realize, all of that stuff wouldn't kind of flood back to her, so it's really helpful so we can get out of danger. So for this made-up scenario, this mom would maybe experience depersonalization and probably some other stuff of the stress response. Sometimes we actually have more strength. You don't feel pain. Honestly, we could go into it for more, but I'm going to keep it because we're just talking about depersonalization and derealization. But maybe it would last for a few minutes or just a few hours. But it's really confusing when you're not in danger. Maybe it just happened because you kind of had a bad high, a bad drug experience. Or it could happen when you're at work or you're driving. And, it's not as clear cut, it's not as obvious. And so then we don't let it flow away because our brain's like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Am I losing my mind? We just freak ourselves out. And then because we're freaking ourselves out, it stays because it's like, wait, guys, no, it's still not safe. She's really anxious right now. So what can it feel like? Some common experiences, people can feel detached from their surroundings. Sometimes like there's a film between them and the world, them and other people. They can feel unreal. Fear going insane. That's a really big common one. Time can also feel weird. Like sometimes it stands still. Sometimes our memory can feel off, but it's not impacted long term. Can feel emotionally numb. Have a hard time putting thoughts together. On the other hand, sometimes we have racing thoughts, visual symptoms, existential thoughts, and intrusive thoughts, which is just, they can seem unwanted. And it's just our brain, trying to think up all these scenarios. I'm going to share with you my story, actually. I'm going to show you my face. I first experienced depersonalization and derealization in 2011. I was taking a medication and I upped myself faster than what my psychiatrist was recommending. I had been on this medication for a few months and it was fine. And then I went off of it. And then I started to kind of feel not great again. And I was like, I'm going back on it. And I had worked my way up to like 450 milligrams, which was what my psychiatrist recommended, but you start slow at like 150, and then you weeks and weeks later go to 300, and then weeks later. But I was so dumb and was like, I know more, because I'd been on medication on and off for a few years. And I was like, I'm just going to jump right up to 450. Really, please never do that. Never, ever, ever do that. It was horrible. So I jumped right up, and I started, before I had my first kind of panic attack with derealization and depersonalization, I was like making breakfast, and I had kind of lost my appetite, and I felt speedy, and I actually had some intrusive thoughts, kind of like, chop your hand off and whatever. And I didn't eat my breakfast, but I brought it in the car, drinking some coffee, driving on the freeway. And actually right before, I kind of felt like euphoric, like it kind of felt like I was just going to start flying, and my car could fly. But I also at that time had almost an image of me like driving my car off this overpass, because I was on the freeway to work. And now that I'm talking about it, I think that experience and having these intrusive thoughts and this kind of too energized and speedy feeling was so scary to my brain. My brain's like, whoa, she is in danger. And then poof, it felt like derealization and depersonalization. Again, I had no idea that that's what it was, but it was instantly like, trying to explain how it really felt. It was like a break from reality is what it felt like. Like it felt, I got so scared. And I think I honestly got so scared because I had that thought that I could drive off the overpass. And because I kind of felt off, I took it really seriously. And it was so scary. My brain's like, we're going to check her out of here, guys. She can't take it. And obviously that was scary to me because it didn't feel comforting. Although our brain's like, I love you. Let's put a little barrier. But I found a place to park, and I called my mom, I called my psychiatrist, and I made it through. But like I'm going to get into more, I developed this kind of like cycle, this self-perpetuating cycle, because I was so afraid of that feeling. I resisted it. I never wanted to come. And I kept kind of thinking about it. So for me, my first experience with derealization and depersonalization felt like it kind of lasted days. It's funny. So I've been working on this presentation since yesterday, and it makes me feel a little weird as I'm like recounting this. I think just because I'm thinking about it so much. Like right now, I notice some weird things with my vision. And I think because I was remembering it, it was almost like I felt like back there, which is really interesting. We're going to get into all that, how it's like our thoughts can really come to life. So I kind of felt like, or I feel like a little yuck. I'll try to summarize my experience. What I did was so innocent, but it scared me so much. I just was trying to make sense of it with my brain, and I kept scaring myself over and over. I kept being like, oh my God, like, are the feelings here? What does it mean? And then like the stress response and more of the feelings. So I struggled with it. And I honestly, it felt like for me, like kind of like the underworld would come. This was like before Stranger Things, but it had this like vibe that, like in a scary movie when the town's the same, but the scary thing is here. So the town looks the same, but it has like such a scary vibe. It's like how it felt for me. And most of the time it would just come when I'd be driving. I think because I was so on the lookout for it. And also I'm sure because I was like thinking, just revving myself up all the time. I never really settled because I didn't feel safe to let myself settle. I thought I needed to be on guard. I really had a misunderstanding. I also thought that, yes, that experience was really scary, but I felt like that was like level 1, and what's possible was level 2. Like I could completely lose control. So I had that experience, but I also felt like I kind of held tight. And so I really felt like, well, that could happen, which was very scary, but I could also lose my mind. I could also really lose control. And then I was very afraid of insanity. And for me, I I had, just how mental illness was portrayed like in the 80s and 90s and maybe still today. I thought like mental illness, there was this place of no return, like I could lose my mind. And what if I went to a mental hospital, and could I still be a school psychologist? Could I be a mom? I completely feel differently. I don't at all feel like there's a place of no return. And some of that changed because two women who I look up to and I thought were amazing in the Three Principles community and who were psychotherapists, their anxiety got so bad that they went to a mental hospital. And then they got out and they were anxiety coaches and psychotherapists. And I was like, so that fear kind of dropped away. And I started to really know, oh, there's no place of no return. And also, it was just my brain trying to make sense of it. But I was so scared because it felt very unsafe to lose control as a mom. I think it probably always feels unsafe. And all I can speak on is to my own experience. But I've also talked to a lot of moms that when we've experienced this super weird feeling with derealization and depersonalization and the intrusive thoughts and the brain just guessing and having all these comments, it felt like I could lose control. What if I hurt myself? What if I hurt other people? Which is like, oh my God, just so scary. And then we can understand why we'd have that natural stress response. If we had all these scary thoughts and not even knowing about our sanity or our capability, the brain would be like, you guys, it is not safe for her to fully be in her body. Keep her away, because we were just kind of innocently and unknowingly traumatizing ourselves. And I don't know if that makes sense. And that's okay if it doesn't. I just wanted to share a little bit about my story, but I think it will all make more sense as we go on with the presentation. If we were really in danger, it would make sense that our vision would be like really sharp. Like our vision kind of would be super powered where we can like see things, see everything to keep ourselves safe. Same with noises. Like it's like our brain's like, oh, let's pay real attention. So we can start seeing things that sometimes we just would let go, or like hearing things that we let go, that we, maybe just kind of fall away when we're not in a stress response. And that's why bright lights and noises can feel so scary when we are experiencing depersonalization and derealization. I put a supermarket because often that's where there's like fluorescent lights, more noises, people are talking in front of us, to the side of us. Sometimes there's an overhead announcement. It can feel really, really scary. And it's just that we can be hyper aware of our own vision, which, as I said, would be really helpful if we were really in danger. But we're just noticing it because we're more activated. Your brain thinks you're in danger. Same, we have that hyper awareness of maybe people talking. But when we don't know, oh, it's just a stress response, we can just almost feel like we're a bad trip. Oh my gosh, this is going to be so overwhelming that I'm just going to freak out. That's at least what I thought. And I actually experienced this, I think it was like Thanksgiving. I wasn't fully having depersonalization or derealization. It was like, I don't know, a little mini weird feeling. And there was a lot of people in the store. And it was actually when I was in line waiting for something at the fish counter. And what kind of did it was there was like a little boy and his dad, and he had this little voice, and he was walking, and I couldn't figure out exactly where it was coming from, but I heard this voice and it kind of felt spooky. And then there was an announcement on someone's like walkie-talkie, and he was behind me, and suddenly my brain was like, like it had that unsafe feeling, and there was people, and it just felt unsafe. But it was just that I was just hyper aware. I was a little bit activated. And what I didn't do anything. Before I would think, oh my gosh, I could freak out. I'm going to lose control. But now I knew, I just felt so safe with that. And I knew almost like if I could stay calm, but not forcefully, because I had an understanding and I wasn't scared, just a little uncomfortable. And I knew that my thoughts would flow. And I just flowed through that experience. So I think you'll understand more how I did that as we get on. But so you might be wondering, well, how long does it last? And so in real danger, it lasts a few minutes or just a few hours at the most. So this is a silly saving photo, kind of like a sexy one. I was trying to find one of somebody saving somebody where, thank goodness, we want that stress response. We want, that fight or flight. And, we want somebody to be super strong and maybe, to be a little bit of barrier between them and the danger so they can get themselves out of danger and maybe they can save somebody else too. I put a picture of a hand blender because one time I almost chopped my finger off with a hand blender. And it was really scary. I was home alone and I just grabbed my finger and I walked outside and I stopped the first person that I saw that was going to go into my neighbor's house. And I said, I almost chopped my finger off and I'm too afraid to remove my hand alone. Can you come in and just help me wrap it up and then bring me to the hospital? Because I actually just lived a few blocks from the hospital. And I handled this and went to the ER. And I'm sure I was experiencing a little bit of detachment. And also I wasn't feeling as much pain. And that was really, really helpful. But then it just naturally faded away and I was fully in the world again. It was very different than when I experienced as part of a panic attack. And what happens is with the less obvious ones, that maybe we started experiencing it because of a bad high or a panic attack, the brain thinks there's danger, but there's no danger around. And so the brain's has scanned the environment and it's what the hell? I'm just in someone's room. I'm in a meeting. I'm in the car. I'm in my room. And then it starts guessing, why? Can I really feel this bad, this from a panic attack? It has to be something more, which is what I thought. I thought this cannot be a panic attack. Nobody else has experienced this strange feeling. They cannot, unless they are insane. This can't just be panic and anxiety. We can't think, but this, did I damage my brain permanently from this weed? When there's no apparent danger, we say why do I feel weird? And our brain is just so neutrally answering the questions. It's supposed to say, maybe you're going insane. Maybe you're going insane. Maybe, whatever it is. And I know that we think we can have a thought and it does not have to be true. I did not know that. I thought when I had thoughts, they were true. But they are not. Our brain's just coming up with ideas. Yesterday, I heard this weird noise on my floor because I was closing a door. And so it created some wind or whatever. And it moved this leaf and it was and my brain said, snake. And I got scared. And then I looked down, but I was looking right at it as my brain said snake. And it was not a snake. It was a leaf. It was a dried leaf because I have this kind of big plant behind me. But that's where our brain just jumps to these conclusions that are not true. But then we get scared. And what happens with this perpetuating cycle, we focus on those weird feelings, feeling unreal, maybe not recognizing ourselves, not recognizing our family members. Sometimes we can have a hard time looking in the mirror, a hard time looking at pictures. Because I've been thinking about depersonalization and derealization a lot more than normally, because honestly, I probably talk to somebody that's experiencing it once a day. But now I've been making this presentation. So when I started to record it and I saw myself, sometimes I'm ugh, I don't like to see myself. But so we focus on these weird feelings. We wonder what's causing it. We have all these questions. Am I going insane? Can I damage myself? Maybe I'm not real. How long will this last? Am I dreaming? Am I still high? And then obviously those are super, while we can on one hand see that they're neutral, we can have a lot of increased anxiety about that because they're not answered. Then with the increased anxiety, more DPDR. And then it goes on and on again. And the reason is we feel our thinking. Our thoughts get brought to life. That top one, how cool when our nice feeling thoughts get brought to life. If you ever watch the Olympics and sometimes you think I could do that. And you picture yourself winning a race or winning the Olympics, or you picture yourself getting married or having babies or going on vacation or winning Top Chef or winning the lottery. But when it's those good feeling thoughts, we don't seek therapy for that. They just come and go. Wherever my thinking goes, consciousness shines a light on that. It allows me to experience thought in a very full way. That's what it gives us, an experience of thought. So thought's not just like black and white. And that's wonderful. It's this gift of imagination. Actually, when kids can have an imaginary friend, it's thought brought to life. But it's very scary, or it can be, when we have these thoughts. Am I going insane? Am I always going to feel like this? Why don't I feel real? Am I not real? Am I high? Am I in an alternate universe? Did I damage myself forever? And then we can feel that. Those thoughts get brought to life and we feel terrified and we feel unreal. But suffering, it's not punishment. It's a salutary, which is health promoting, invitation to look in a new direction. And that's what brought you here. You're here looking in a new direction. When you feel bad and you're suffering, it's just letting you know that the train of thought you were on wasn't headed anywhere good. It's not telling you anything about your sanity or your capability or your nature. It's just saying, hey, what you were doing makes sense, but you know what? It wasn't really working because we are not feeling good. So let's look in a new direction. This is maybe the direction that you were in, obsessing over depersonalization and derealization, wondering what's causing it, researching it, going on forums and comment sections for videos. I've talked to a lot of people that they really trip themselves out researching and going onto forums and comment sections because they will read that some people have it chronically. It's like it's lasted for years, and then they get so scared. I'm talking to a lot of people right now, or quite a handful, and it terrifies them. Even though they've experienced it before and maybe it lasted a week and then it fell away, but now they're like, what if mine lasts for 4 years? What if it's chronic and it never goes away? I read that in a comment. But then they might say, what about those people that it just falls away? But they keep wondering, and then they don't really allow it to fall away. Because everybody that I talk to has times when they feel quote unquote normal. It falls away, but then they think about it and they worry, is it going to come back? They have all these questions and then increased anxiety. But what we're going to do is we're going to get off of this. You're going to realize, wow, I can see that was from love. I can see that was from love. But I didn't need to do that. Just like if you had a bruise, you wouldn't poke at it. You would not go on a forum and say, how long do bruises last? Because you just know your body has this natural capability to heal a bruise and heal a cut. You wouldn't keep taking your Band-Aid off and poking at it. But that's what we do with depersonalization and derealization. Depersonalization and derealization, it's caused by a fear of it. We tell our brain, oh my God, this is so bad. And our brain's like, great, I will keep an eye on it. We just keep poking at it and we don't let it naturally fall away. But that's okay, because until now, maybe you weren't taught that. And that's okay. So another reason that depersonalization and derealization can be caused by that fear, and it's exactly the same for panic attacks. You start having panic about panic, anxiety about anxiety. So with depersonalization, and that's just true for all anxiety conditions, your brain is like, got it. I got the message. I'm going to be on the lookout for any weird feeling. Because when we get so scared of it, when it wasn't an obvious dangerous situation, and our brain is just kind of following our command. It is like, on it, boss. You get it. From the moment you wake up, I'm going to scan your body. Because maybe if I can catch it, I can prevent it, or I can stop it, or I can see, and that's what I did. I'd scan it, and because I was so completely terrified of it, I would be back in that cycle. I would be on the lookout for it, then I would notice it, and I would resist it because I thought I didn't want that bad feeling, and I didn't want it to get worse and for me to lose my mind. But I was never letting myself rest. I was still in fight or flight. because it still seemed dangerous, because depersonalization and derealization felt dangerous. So my body thought I was in danger, and it kept me in fight or flight. But it is not dangerous when we can see, oh, it's just a natural response. So I often do not give strict advice, but I do not go on forums. Do not look for more videos. Don't read the comment sections. Really let yourself settle. If you like what I'm saying, just let this be it. Really? You don't need, please just even skip over my videos on Instagram and on TikTok. Don't read the comment section. Like all temporary anxiety conditions, depersonalization and derealization, it's temporary. It really is. So you might say, but you did not answer. How long does it last? It just lasts as long as it quote unquote needs to. It only stays when it's not allowed to naturally fade away. And since it's a stress response, it naturally fades away when the anxiety around it falls away. When we stop resisting it, when we can just allow ourselves to settle. We stop obsessing about it, we stop thinking about it, we stop researching out there and also researching in our minds. We let ourselves settle. Even when depersonalization or derealization has lasted a long time, you might be saying, I've been dealing with this for 18 years. It's only ever caused by anxiety, which is to me a swirling mass of stressful thinking and feelings. And we can recover from anxiety. And look at even just this background one that was on Canva, recovery. Return to the original state. You return to balance. That's your default. And it's okay, you just innocently got in your own way because derealization and depersonalization was so scary. It made so much sense from an intellectual standpoint for you to research it, for you to think about it, for you to be on guard. But now we can see, okay, that actually wasn't helpful. And that's what a lot of what I was doing was like for my mental health. I really felt broken. I tried so many techniques. Oh my God, hypnosis. Oh, and when I went to hypnosis, I was actually experiencing derealization and depersonalization, and it was incredibly, incredibly scary. I don't recommend it. I mean, I'm sure I'm not anti-hypnosis. It just was, I was in a really scared state of mind. But all of my things, like trying to find the perfect diet, focusing on sleep, because I thought if I didn't get enough sleep, I could go insane. And I just was so envious of my children's dad. He could like smoke weed and stay up late and eat food. And I was like, I have to go to sleep because I could lose my mind. And I would meditate and do tapping. And oh God, you don't need to hear all my story. Oh, but I did want to read you something from Amy Johnson's book, Just a Thought. It's a wonderful, wonderful story. So in this part of Amy's book, she's talking about a paradigm shift. When we see the world differently, we naturally think, feel, and behave differently. The Hindu parable of the snake and the rope is a classic illustration of this. A man is walking alone in the desert and comes upon a rattlesnake. He panics. His body reacts in all the ways bodies react to panic. His heart is racing. He's full of adrenaline. Time feels stopped. His muscles are poised to run. But before he runs, something tells him to take one final look. As he turns to glance once more at the rattlesnake, he sees that the snake is actually a rope. The instant he sees that the snake is a rope, the fear is gone. His body chemistry immediately begins restoring to its default resting state, and the inclination to run vanishes. He couldn't make himself fear the snake now if he wanted to, because he sees it for what it truly is. When you deeply see that the snake is a rope, it takes no effort to not be afraid. And when you're not afraid, it takes no effort to keep hiking through the desert or whatever it is you're doing. When you deeply see that you're the most expansive oneness imaginable, and the experience flowing through you is safe, impersonal, and always changing, it takes no willpower or concerted effort to change your thinking or behave differently. It's not a conscious doing on your part. It's an effortless seeing. It's a no willpower approach. And I just love that. When I read this part, when you deeply see that the snake is a rope, it takes no effort to not be afraid. And what I'm posing here is when you can deeply see that strange feeling of depersonalization and derealization, it's just a natural response to perceived threat. Let me try to think if I can say it. When you see, oh, that's just my brain trying to help me out. You're not so afraid. And I said, I know I started to feel a little bit, who knows, just maybe a tiny bit of my vision feeling a little weird because I've been thinking so much about depersonalization and derealization. But I know so deeply, I have no fear of it. So it takes no effort for me to continue making this presentation or continue driving. Because as I've been making this, I took a break and picked up my son and his friends. And they were very wild in the car and they had all this loud music and they were hitting each other. And I can feel a little bit weird, but I know so deeply that it's safe. It's completely safe and it just flows. My experience just flows just as yours can flow. You might be wondering, but what about DPDR if I got high from weed, from THC, from CBD? And you know what? So I know that a lot of times CBD, doesn't have a psychoactive, like you're not supposed to feel high. But I've experienced that when something is supposed to be like pure CBD, because I don't know if you've ever taken CBD. I live in California and it's legal. And THC, weed, and CBD, it's often recommended for anxiety. It is not something I at all would recommend, at all, but that's me. You know you. And if you feel good smoking weed and taking CBD, great. I just wanted to validate that sometimes, even if it's just pure CBD, people can feel a bit high from it. I know I have when it's just from hemp. There's no THC. I've also had it when I take CBD that has a little bit of THC in it. And I'm not a THC or CBD expert at all. Anxiety expert, maybe. Expert is I've done, years and years of research, and I've worked with some of the best people in the Three Principles community, so I'm knowledgeable about about anxiety and Three Principles and mental health, but I'm not an expert in THC and CBD. But what we're talking about, allowing yourself to return to balance, that is possible, even if it's just you experience this for the first time, after you smoked or after you took an edible or drops or gummies. Everything applies the same. So if you kind of had a panic attack when you were high, or you didn't even intend to get high, you just took CBD and then all of a sudden you started panicking, you felt weird, you felt high. Forgive yourself. Really forgive yourself. I've talked to quite a few people recently, and it's so innocent. Weed and CBD, it's widely used. It's so fun for a lot of people. People love it. So just forgive yourself. I also would recommend taking a THC or CBD break. Allow yourself to return to balance and then see for yourself. As I said before, stop researching. A little bit of research can be really helpful, but I think we can have a hard time stopping. When we get anxious, we look for reassurance in all the wrong places. So as I said, do not watch any more videos. Don't go on forums. Don't read comment sections. I also think it's great to distract yourself. Sometimes I cringe at the word distraction because it gets such a bad rap. But distraction is just getting present. When you're in your life, you're out of your thoughts. There's nothing wrong with distraction when you have a deep understanding and you are having a deep understanding. Then get on with your life. Read a fun book, watch a fun movie, play video games, see friends, cook, clean, knit, whatever you like to do. Just get in your life. But don't do it as, how am I feeling? How am I feeling? But just allow yourself to be distracted because it's just you getting present. There's nothing wrong with distracting yourself. You don't want to just lie there thinking about how weird you feel or researching. The most important one, to allow it to flow. You don't try to force a normal feeling. If you're watching a movie, who cares if you feel weird? If you're cooking, who cares if you feel weird? One time when I had taken, it was mostly CBD, I honestly feel like it was 30 to 1. or whatever, 30 to 10. I can't remember because it was a long time ago, like 4 years ago or 3.5 years ago. I took this pill, which I had taken before, but then my daughter and I were like cleaning out her closet and we were refolding all the stuff, and it was just CBD, and I had just felt overwhelmed. So I took this CBD pill, and then all of a sudden I kind of felt slightly high. And to me, my brain was like, danger, because I don't ever want to be high in front of my children. And I freaked out. Luckily, I had a babysitter coming because I was going to go on a date with my boyfriend. I think we had literally just became boyfriend and girlfriend like the day before. So I was like, oh my gosh, I have a migraine. And I called her. I'm like, will you please come early? And she did. So she was there within 5 minutes. I went off on such a tangent. Oh, but I scared myself because I wanted to feel normal right then. But what's so helpful is to just allow it to flow. Accept that it's there and go about your day as if nothing was wrong. Don't force a normal feeling. Allow time to bring it back. And actually, that is what I did. So I did force it, but then once the babysitter came and I was just like able to just be alone, and then later with my boyfriend, I didn't add on to it with my scary thinking. I wanted to talk a little bit about forgiveness, because sometimes I think we can think, if I just beat myself up, I'm never going to smoke, I'm never going to take an edible, like, oh, it was so horrible. But to err is human, to forgive divine. These are some quotes from Sid Banks. Forgiveness releases you from the mental anguish and pain, and all the horrible negative feelings an unforgiving mind experiences. It is forgiveness that allows you to see today as a new experience. So right now, I'm sending my forgiving, loving energy over you. I'm like, as cheesy as this sounds or woo-woo, it's like, I want to sprinkle you with fairy dust. Love yourself and forgive yourself for whatever you smoked or drank or ate or dropped. A little bit about the past, too. Understanding the past is not about sorting out the content of our thinking, but recognizing that the past, good or bad, is over. We can't change it. We can't fix it. We can't make it happen again. We can learn from the past, deeply appreciate it, or leave it behind. But true contentment is found in the now. That's why really let each experience be fresh and new. Let tomorrow be fresh and new. Let this next moment be fresh and new. Some more quotes from Sid. As far as I'm concerned, the further into the past you go, the more details you remember. Therefore, the more complications you put in the way of the solution. Are the details important? They are if you wish to keep them alive, he replied. The details, he continued, are simply proof to the ego that the problem exists. They perpetuate the situation you are trying to get rid of. The past is dead. Leave the past alone. Our experience is meant to flow. Sid Banks said that humans have one problem. We react to our experience when it's meant to flow. We stop it flowing when we think, I need to control it. And when you open your arms and you let it flow and you don't fight it, it goes away. The extent to which we fight our experience, it stays. If you see your experience as nothing more than a temporary state of mind that you don't like, it flows. So it's okay. I don't like the feeling of depersonalization and derealization, but it flows. You know what? And sometimes I notice that I'm a little dissociated, and I don't mind that at all. I'm like, oh, isn't that interesting? But when I notice it, I just know, oh, I'm taking my life too seriously, taking my thinking too seriously. And I take it as an invitation to just get present. And how to feel better. I want you to remember that derealization and depersonalization, it's a defense mechanism that gets stuck by our very efforts to be rid of it. We try to figure it out, decide it's a big problem, and by doing so, hold it more firmly in place. Remember, this is so innocent. I did this on and off for 7 years. Really, I did. It's just anxiety, your brain just trying to help you. But it's like worrying that a fire alarm is going to burn down your house. Depersonalization and derealization, it's a defense mechanism. And as Dr. Pettit taught me too, it's a love letter. It's a friendly alarm. So remember, don't try to force a normal feeling. Let time bring it back. Because when we're trying, it keeps us in our head, at more stress. And what we want to be is out of our head and in our life. And Just like with when you see that the snake is a rope, when you can see that it's your own thinking, creating your own experience, there's a natural tendency to come back to the now. And actually, it just made me realize when I did a training with George and Linda Pransky, with the Pranskys, who are some of my amazing teachers. And in this recent training, Linda was talking about making friends with what you hate. And Linda hated moods. And I kind of made all these notes to what if you made friends with derealization and depersonalization. I should try to find that. I'll find that and I'll come back to it. But oh, isn't that interesting? What if we could make friends with it? So what you do is you just wait for relaxation, presence, ease, connection. That's what naturally happens when your mind is quiet, when you're out of the quote-unquote danger. So a big key is understanding where our experience comes from. Universal mind, the greater intelligence behind life, divine intelligence, wisdom, and common sense. So this is the thing that grew you, that grows babies, that's responsible for caterpillars turning into butterflies and mountains and the planets. Here are some quotes from Sid Banks from his book, The Missing Link. Some believe the brain and the mind are the same, but there has to be power behind the brain to make it function. The brain and the mind are two entirely different things. The brain is biological, the mind is spiritual. The brain acts like a computer. Whatever you put into it is all you get out of it. This is logic. And that's why I've had those little images of the brain when the brain is a computer. And so it's just doing what we ask it when we say, hey, I really hate these feelings. They're dangerous. Be on guard for them. As I said, it's like, on it, boss. I will make you aware of all these dangerous feelings, or whenever you feel off. This is from Dr. Pettit from his website. He said, universal mind is pure love and understanding. Nothing is separate from it. Therefore, you and I are pure love and understanding. Remember, the personal mind is the creator of all misery. And there's a lot of great things our brain does. It really, really does. But, when it's just chatting, it's just saying, yeah, maybe you are going to go insane. Yeah, you've totally fucked yourself over by smoking that much weed. Why did you take all of those gummies? Why are you on the research forums? You've probably fucked yourself over. You're the person that is just going to be chronic, And it's innocent. It's when we take our thoughts seriously. And that's okay. Another thing I want you to remember, uncomfortable, not unsafe. It's not dangerous at all. Also remember that you are made of wisdom and common sense. Future you can handle anything. You are unstoppable. You are always going to return to balance. Because often what I hear is people don't even let themselves enjoy it when they return to balance because they were so traumatized by that experience. Hello, this was me for 7 years. We just think, oh my God, what if it comes again? What am I going to do? All that what ifing. But what I'm saying is, future, you can handle it because we are made of wisdom and common sense. So you'll know what to do if it happens. You'll be handed a simple knowing. And also, when you understand it, it's just like if you came upon what you thought was a snake and you realized it's a rope. If you realize it, oh, here I go. I'm not actually in danger. You can see it for just the tap on the shoulder. This is from Dr. Pettit. This is when he's describing love letters. Symptoms of decreased mood, increased anxiety, we're going to put in here DPDR, muddled and distracted thinking, relationship problems, unhealthy behavioral habits, and quite often physical symptoms are alarms or love letters. If you followed me on social media, you've probably heard me talk about love letters, encouraging you to be where you are as best you can. When I read that, to be where you are as best you can, to me that seems like getting out of your head, right? It is in the now with a calm and curious state that you will more reliably hear the wisdom-based guidance that lies within the consciousness of every human being on earth. Your level of understanding of how the system works and how often you are activating your acute stress response determines how strongly these love letters will show up. And what you're doing, you're here, understanding how the system works. So if you want to receive, Dr. Pettit has a free video, Symptoms as Love Letters. You can go to his website right there, drbillpettit.com. I love so much he has it on his free videos. It's on his website and also YouTube. Dr. Bill Pettit, Anxiety Disorders. I just love it. So another principle is thought. Thought kind of comes from nothing and it comes in, and sometimes it's those thinky thoughts. What if I go insane? But sometimes it's memories. We remember a scary movie that we watched. Maybe we remember Sybil, or other movies where mental illness is portrayed and we worry that that's going to happen to us. Maybe we remember the last time we experienced this. And sometimes it's just images, or we feel pain. It comes into our view. But with thought, it's just coming and going. So the nature of thought is that it's transient. It flows. I bet you've experienced that a lot. When you go to one room to get something and then you're like, what did I even come in here for? Because the thought just flew out of your mind. That was a huge game changer for me. When I realized I didn't need to take my thoughts so seriously, because not all thoughts are true. And then I didn't need to do anything, because I used to do a lot. I did like yoga therapy, and I would do emotional freedom technique when I do this tapping. I would like shake it out, do finger holds, like legs up the wall. Like I thought I had to like do something. And then when I realized that I was just one thought away from a whole new feeling, because thoughts flow. So then a weird feeling and a weird thought was free to show up. I could rest easy knowing it would flow. Because thought, it's neutral. As I was saying, I didn't take my thoughts so seriously because I realized they are neutral until we breathe life into them. Our experience comes from our thought. And because it's coming from thought, it's not coming from out there. Some people might love feeling high. I had a client who was feeling a little weird because of something with CBD. I think it had maybe a little THC, or maybe it was just the CBD. And she felt so horrible. And her boyfriend loved the feeling. He's like, oh my God, I wish I could just feel high anytime I wanted to. And as I said, my children's father, he loved that feeling. And so feeling high doesn't freak everybody out. And some people don't mind feeling dissociated or feeling a little bit of derealization or depersonalization, because it's not that feeling, it's our thoughts about it. Just as for some people, they're really afraid of snakes. And for some people, they are afraid of heights, or they are afraid of swimming, or now they're afraid of driving on the freeway. It's not driving on the freeway. And it's not actually this feeling of depersonalization or derealization, or feeling high, or feeling disconnected, feeling detached. It's our thoughts about it. And that's so powerful, because thought is just coming and going. We're never stuck. It's just incredibly life-changing. I've talked to a lot of people, and this one woman shared with me on Instagram that she was out and started to feel overwhelmed. And then she just allowed her experience to flow. And I know it's so simple, but it's like that alone changed my life. Any weird feeling is free to show up and it can just flow. I don't have to do anything. Michael Neal, another one of my great teachers, he has a great podcast called Caffeine for the Soul. And in an episode, he was talking about the snow globe, which I love. If you've worked with me, you've probably seen me talk about a snow globe. I've been using it for for 14 years, kind of because we can shake it up and we know that's how we feel. And we set ourselves down and we settle. So thought, this is a quote from Michael, and I just wrote it down. He said, I will never see more clearly by thinking more. So sometimes we think, I'm going to think my way out of it, but no. Because here are those thoughts. Am I going insane? Can I damage myself? Maybe I'm not real. How long will this last? Am I dreaming? Am I high? What about that one person that experienced it for 18 years? When we spend our days and weeks researching it, we're innocently making it worse. But again, please, innocently underlined 100 times. But I wonder if you can see that for you. I will never see more clearly by thinking more. And when we can allow ourselves to settle, we see clearly. We know, I am okay. Another principle, third principle, is of consciousness. And there's no right order to them, and they honestly all work together. But consciousness, it brings our thoughts to life. It really does. It's such a gift. It just sometimes it brings the thoughts that don't feel good to life. I bet you can think of that when maybe you text somebody and they don't text you back right away. Maybe an hour goes by and two, and maybe you think, oh, they hate me. Or maybe you think they're dead. And you kind of feel like that's real. Your heart might hurt. Consciousness brings our thoughts to life. It does not care if they're true or not. It does not care. So say for that example, it was your best friend and you're like, she hates me now. And you're like, so sad. And then she texts you back tomorrow and she's like, oh my God, you'll never believe it. I lost my phone. I put an elevator because our consciousness goes up and down too. So that's kind of like our state of mind. Often when it's 3 a.m., we're kind of in that lower state of consciousness. And then in the morning, sometimes we see brighter. We're like, oh, that's also not such a big problem. We are taught that we must think to find a solution. In higher consciousness, we find that things work the opposite way. After all, it is our thoughts and hang-ups that got us into this mess in the first place. I just loved that because often it's just if you allow yourself to be wherever you're at, allow your state of mind to rise, allow yourself to feel better, you find what you're looking for. Jack Pransky has a great book called Seduced by Consciousness. And he said, we don't have to believe it. When life looks hopeless, when it looks like our partner is a total jerk, I'm going to add in when it looks like we're going to experience derealization forever, when it looks like the world is out to get us, when it looks like we should never have kids, we should have never smoked weed, we don't have to believe it because we know our self-created reality is a temporary illusion, not to be acted upon. I'm adding in, just like when you thought your friend didn't text you back and they hated you, that was an illusion. Our low-level consciousness is simply making it look as if it's reality. That's all. It means nothing. It's only a change in the quality of our thinking, passing through in the grand scheme of life. Can we be in a low state and still be in our health? Yes. We can have all the angry, depressing, worried, anxious, or bothered thoughts we want, so long as we know they mean nothing. Knowing our thinking will change when our mood rises, the situation will look different eventually, is a healthy thought, even if we may not be able to pull ourselves out of it at the time. Sometimes we just feel like wallowing in self-pity for a while. That will do no harm if we know it really doesn't mean anything and it will pass. Thus, we remain in our health. And I wanted to read you, we're almost done, but I wanted to read you something on feeling from Sid's book, The Missing Link. Feelings. Our feelings are the barometer of our thoughts. When the mind is filled with positive thoughts, cause and effect rule, resulting in positive feeling. When the mind is filled with negative thoughts, again, cause and effect rule, creating a negative feeling. Our feelings are evidence of our mental well-being. Positive thoughts and feelings will assist you to discover the mental health and wisdom that lie within you. When you learn to forgive those who have wronged you in the past, you clear your mind and bring harmony to your life, allowing you to see what is instead of what isn't. What isn't is life seen through distorted memories. What is life seen as it truly is now, clear of all falsehoods. The tormented mind, which entertains love and forgiveness as guests, will surely entertain new heights. And when I was thinking about forgiveness, just forgive yourself. In our feelings, they just let us know if our thinking's on track. So if you're having some negative feelings, again, no need to beat yourself up. We're not robots. But it doesn't mean that your thinking is true. I didn't know that. I felt like if I thought something strongly, it must be true. If I thought, no one else has experienced this, I'm never going to feel normal again. I really regretted taking all that medication, not following my psychiatrist's recommendation. I thought I damaged myself. That was not true. I did not damage myself. You did not damage yourself. My words may seem too simple, but I say again, the truth is simple. Look for common sense, plain old-fashioned common sense. When seeking wisdom, one is very apt to find that in simplicity lies complexity. So again, a reminder, don't try to force a normal feeling. Let time bring it back to you. And when you can see that it's your own thinking, creating your own experience, there's a natural tendency to come back to the now. You can just see, you can see it as a love letter, a tap on the shoulder, to drop your thinking, to just be where you are. And you can just wait for relaxation, presence, ease, and connection. Because that's what naturally happens when your mind is quiet, when you're quote unquote out of danger. I think that is it. I hope this was helpful. I'm sending you all so much love.